All right, let's talk running backs. These are my top 10 running backs. Always a divisive list. I think if you ask 10 knowledgeable football fans what their top 10 running back lists are, you're going to get 10 very different lists. Part of the fun of these lists is that. But yeah, top 10 running backs. First, I want to give some honorable mentions. Guys who, I think a lot of these guys, I'm surprised, didn't make the list, but for whatever reason, I couldn't find a place for them. Kenneth Walker III, who looked great before getting injured last year. Tony Pollard, who I really could have put on this list. I just didn't feel like I had quite the sample size with him just yet as a number one bell cow back. So he was probably number 11 on this list, but did not quite make it. Dalvin Cook, just the injuries kind of kept him off. Alvin Kamara, who, has really been just as good of a runner as we've ever seen, but I feel like he hasn't quite had the splash plays since Drew Brees has retired, although still great back, made the honorable mentions list. And Ramondre Stevenson, another very good running back for the Patriots, but none of those guys make the top 10. Only 10 can make it, so let's get into the list, starting off at number 10. I'm going Dameon Pierce of the Houston Texans at number 10. He is a player who, one thing I should mention is that for running backs, I'm going to be a lot more willing to put someone on this list if they've only had one good year of production. It is a what have you done for me lately position. So if you've been good lately, I'm going to assume you're going to be good in the future. And again, it's worth mentioning, this is a right now list. This is not your career. This is not what I expect you to do the next 5 years. Simply just right now. Pierce, I thought, was at times great last year for the Texans in a really tough situation. Had some real Marshawn Lynch-esque runs at time, which was very exciting to watch. So very fascinated in seeing where his career can go from here. Number 9, another rookie running back, Breece Hall of the Jets, who, if he didn't get banged up, was going to win Offensive Rookie of the Year right off the bat. Again, the injury is probably part of what's actually keeping him down a little bit on this list of how are you going to bounce back from that. Always scary at the running back position, but I'm going to assume he will bounce back and be as good as we've seen him be, which is a borderline elite running back already, albeit in a small sample size, so I couldn't put him too much higher, but number 9 still feels right for me. Number 8, give me the Los Angeles Chargers running back Austin Ekeler, who I think some fantasy football players might have him higher on their own personal list than I currently have him. Listen, definitely does a lot of great work out of the backfield. I think I would personally say he probably doesn't get enough credit for what he can do as a pure runner of the football, though. He can be a very effective, just pure rusher of the football. Again, he gets a lot of fantasy football points due to him being kind of that 3-down back who catches and runs, but hey, in real football, that's also still very valuable, so definitely deserves a spot on this list. I have him here at 8. Number 7, I still like Aaron Jones a lot for the Packers. I mean, there was a period of the season last year where their biggest home run hitter was Aaron Jones. He was the guy who was their home run hitter, weirdly enough. And sometimes he's, in the Devontae Adams era, was kind of their number 2 option in a lot of ways in the passing game sometimes. He does a lot very well. He can hit home runs, but also does the simple stuff very well. And I don't know, I feel like due to the disaster that the Packers had last year and all the attention the running game got, he was still able to have an effective season. So I think he maybe got slept on a little bit. I'm going to put him at number 7. Number 6, just outside my top 5, I'm putting Saquon here, and to me, this is where we get into the elite running backs of the, in the NFL currently. I do think these guys are a step above. I think there's a tier list, and you could argue Barkley is a little bit higher if you want to. Again, the knock on Barkley, we know the knock. He can't stay fully healthy, and that has been an issue throughout the course of his career. I do hold that against him because it feels like there's a higher chance that if I'm, the way I view this is, who would I rather have next year? I feel like there's a higher chance he gets hurt than some of the guys above him. But assuming he stays healthy, he should be an elite running back and has shown that he can be an elite running back. There's so much he does effectively and really changed the dynamic of how teams played the Giants when he was out there. So yeah, absolutely deserves a spot on this list. And 6 feels too low, but then I look at my top 5, I'm like, I kind of get it. Because number 5 is Jonathan Taylor, who I think we forget. Again, the knock on Jonathan Taylor is he's only done it once. He's only done it for 1 year. Last year, he did not look as dominant when he was out there as he did 2 years ago. But we are still just 2 years removed from him legitimately getting MVP consideration. Like, that was a legitimate thing that happened. And a lot of people said, like, if they if there was second place votes for MVP, he would have gotten second place votes. He would have. I mean, that's how good of a year that he had and how much people liked him. Again, giving a running back MVP votes is weird in general, but I'm just saying that's what happened. He had a dominant year, and you could argue that, in fact, I think I would argue that out of the running backs in the NFL, he has had the best singular season out of any running back in the NFL who isn't my number one guy on this list. I think that would be fair to say. He just only done it once, and because of that, I have to keep him at number 5. Number 4 might be the most underrated running back on this list. Him and number 3, I think, are the two guys who just don't get enough credit due to the team that they play on. Josh Jacobs for the Raiders, I think you could argue, and it's almost just, I think, true, he had the best season last year out of any running back. He was the best running back in football last year. He was amazing and getting a little bit up there in age, but Jacobs has been really a consistently good player through his time in the Raiders, and at times elite. I think his play style just really isn't flashy. He really just kind of runs through the gap and gets through it quickly, and has good vision, and so he knows where to run quickly enough that he's not making these splashy type runs that maybe a Saquon Barkley would. But I think that he is better, and I think that he's been consistently better than the other guys on this list, and has even had some really high highs as well. So while he's definitely had those seasons where he was just a good running back game in and game out, but nothing otherworldly, last year he was otherworldly. Last year he was great. And 4, again, there's so many good running backs. 4 feels low, although I still think I like to have my top 3 guys above him. Number 3 is Nick Chubb, who, again, feels too low. You could argue he was number 1. I have, in previous lists, put him at number 1 on my list, and you could definitely make that argument. He's still been consistently great, and he does have some runs where I think the only 2 guys I'll say this about, him and my number 1 running back, he'll have these runs. Actually, I would say all 3 of these top guys I can say this about. There's certain runs that he makes where I'm like, only Nick Chubb makes that run. Like certain specific situations where like he finds a way to use that shiftiness and power in a way where no one else is able to find a way to get into the end zone, and he does. I think number 2 and 1 also do it in different ways. They have their own specific plays that they could do it. But Nick Chubb, again, if he played for a team that wasn't Cleveland and got more media attention, and sometimes Cleveland gets media attention for the wrong reasons. So if Nick Chubb played for, I don't know, if he played for the Cowboys, he's a household name, and people talk about him as the best running back in football. Number 2, Christian McCaffrey, who's definitely maybe the flashiest running back in football. Some of his highlights are, just incredible to watch. Maybe the most fun highlights of anyone on this list. But it's not just the highlights. He is a consistent runner. He is someone who can do the dirty work as well. He doesn't get enough credit for just being a good runner of the football. Everyone talks about his passing, not his actual passing, although he did play quarterback that one time, but what he does in the passing game. But in a way, I think that can kind of undercut what he does in the running game as well. He is a complete back who does everything effectively, and in many eras would be the best running back of his era, but that is not the case in this era. Of course, it's King Henry. It's King Henry. We all knew Derrick Henry was going to be number 1 on this list, who I didn't think it was possible for him to have a quiet good year, but it kind of feels like that's what happened last year, is that when he was, when he was getting the ball, I mean, there were games where he just won them the football game, and he's kind of, people talk about him as, you do have the whole debate, right, of how much do running backs matter. He is kind of the exception to every rule. He clearly does matter, and if you can get a Derrick Henry, things are different. And it's every time someone drafts a running back in the first round, people say, well, if it's a Derrick Henry caliber running back, then it's worth a first round selection. And the argument against that is obviously, well, that's great, but nobody is Derrick Henry other than Derrick Henry. I mean, that's otherworldly levels of talent. So because of that, I think that he almost makes the running back. He does a lot of good work for running backs. Running backs get paid more because of Derrick Henry and because of the value he brings to the team. He is a superstar who means a ton to his football team. There aren't a lot of running backs like that, but he is one of them. I would say the top 6 are all the guys I would consider the elite guys who really are complete game changers, but the other guys still have a lot of value as well. So yeah, those are my thoughts. What are yours? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.